Welcome back with Murphy Mac to another episode of the Fitness Beginner Podcast, where we help you get started on your fitness journey. How's it going? We got another podcast episode for y'all today, and we have a guest joining us today. He's going to come on. We have Mr. Ken Miller is joining us today, bringing him up on the screen. So first off, thank you for joining the podcast. We're glad to have you and hear a little bit about your story and what you do today. But just a little bit about us and our podcast is it's called the Fitness Beginner Podcast. So the whole idea of the podcast is just to help people get motivated, learn a little bit more about fitness, mainly more of like from from a beginner level. Try to keep people, get people started going on their fitness journey. And so we tend to keep things pretty basic, but then when we have people on, we like to dive deeper into certain topics, like when we have people on like you, so we can dive deeper into the weeds of certain topics. So yeah, that's a little bit about the podcast. If you would, just kind of introduce yourself and kind of give everybody a glimpse of who you are and what you do.
Well, my name is Ken Miller, and I live in Blaine, Washington, and I am an author, a writer, and a speaker, and I'm also a business owner, husband, grandfather, and all-around nice guy.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear. So you did send me a little bit of information about you. You had a pretty, I wouldn't say rough, but you had an interesting upbringing, and then you've kind of turned your life around since then, and you've become a successful business owner. So that's awesome. So I wanted to kind of go back to that before you kind of changed your life around, and just kind of hear a little bit more about your story. So what did that season of your life beforehand, what did that kind of look like, and what kind of led to that?
So there's different seasons. And before we get to the season of the rough patch, and it was rough, believe me, it was rough. Very simply, I was a foster child, did 6 years in foster homes, got adopted at age 6. I was what they would call precocious, and I was academically inclined. So I was accepted to Harvard. I went to Dartmouth College, Ivy League, graduated in 1984, started drinking in college. I went to my first treatment center as a graduation present from getting out of Dartmouth and stayed sober for about 2 years. Then I relapsed, and I was to spend approximately the next 20 years either homeless, incarcerated, in treatment, halfway houses, things of that nature. I've been to prison 3 times. Definitely spent a lot of years on the streets, and came out in '07 out of prison the last time for the 3rd time. And since that day, I've built an incredible business. I have a beautiful wife, beautiful life, and I do a lot to give back these days. That's what I predominantly do, is I give back and run my companies.
Awesome. So would you say the kind of drinking in college is what kind of started you, leading you down the right path, or how did that happen?
It wasn't leading me down the right path.
I mean, the wrong path. My bad.
Yeah. So, look, and that's a great question in a few ways, because many people have had experiences of drinking in college, or will have experiences of drinking in college. I was in a fraternity. We had beer on probably 6 days a week, 24/7. You just go down to the basement, pour yourself a beer, kegs. But my fraternity did not make me an alcoholic. I was born an alcoholic. And so within a month and a half of my first beer, I was a full-blown alcoholic. Could not control the amount that I drank. And under the influence of alcohol, I make really bad decisions for me, my loved ones, and society. I hurt society, the things I do. And so it's not because of Dartmouth. It wasn't because of the academics. It wasn't because of the fraternity. And it wasn't because I started drinking in college. If I started drinking after I got out of college, I would have been an alcoholic. If I had drank in high school, which thank goodness I didn't, I would have been an alcoholic in high school. And so it was just the time and the place. But it did make it easy to drink a lot. But I'd have found it somehow.
Yeah, that's interesting. You said you were born an alcoholic. Why?
Yes.
What do you mean by that? Like, why do you think you were born an alcoholic? Like, you just have an addictive personality? Is that kind of what you mean?
It's not personality. There are literally chemicals and the way my brain metabolizes enough it doesn't. I don't have that shut off valve. Okay, so and I still have it. You call it addictive first sight. If you put a pint of Haagen Dazs butter pecan ice cream in front of me, I will eat the whole pint, and I will justify it. I can justify my drinking. I could rationalize my drinking. Okay. But the key thing is most people will stop after one or two, three. Okay, we'll say that. I don't have to stop and switch. I continue till I run out of drug. I was talking on another podcast a little while ago, and I said there's only been two times in my 17 years of smoking crack cocaine that I had not smoked up every piece that I've ever had in front of me. One, I had food poisoning, and then one, I got arrested before I could finish off all the crack. But every other time, I've overdosed on crack cocaine because I don't have the shut off switch. And let me just explain this also to the listener. I'm not, I wasn't addicted to crack cocaine or methamphetamine or heroin or weed or alcohol. What I'm addicted to is leaving reality. That's what I've always was choosing to do and wanting to do. I wanted to change my perception of reality because when I'm sober, back when in my addictive year, my years of addiction, I had a lot of things to look back on and feel bad about in my behavior and my actions and things that had happened to me, things that I was a victim of. And I did not want to deal with that sober until I dealt with it sober.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of people can relate with that. I think a lot of times we'll use substances to kind of escape reality, kind of to not have to think about it. I was curious about your alcohol because I've been sober almost 3 years now, so it's been
Awesome.
so it's
Awesome.
alcohol was I wouldn't say I was an alcoholic, but
That's fine.
it definitely was a problem. Like it,
Right.
so I was like, it don't do me any good, so I just decided to cut it out. And
I don't care if you're a heavy drinker, a binge drinker, an alcoholic. If alcohol causes you problems, what is the solution? And the solution for most of us is abstinence. We have to abstain. How you do it, I don't care. I don't care if you do it through AA. I don't care if you do it through the church. I don't care if you woke up one day and said, I won't drink again. I'm cool with that. I know people who have gotten clean and sober because they had a child. I know people who have gotten clean and sober because their fear of what the judge will do to them. I've had it because they've been wife ordered. I've known it because they've gone into the rooms of recovery. I've known it because they joined churches. I know a lot of people have done it through the church. I don't care how you do it. It's just it's best for you and your loved ones.
yeah, I eventually got to the point to where there was no like benefit of it. I couldn't think of any good benefit of drinking alcohol. So I was like, well, if I'm not benefiting anything from it, then why
Right.
do it? Like
Right.
that's why I was like, I'm just gonna cut it out. And that was once I understood that, once I realized that, it made it so easy to cut it out.
That's beautiful. That's
Like I
beautiful. I
was,
love it.
if I'm not getting anything, and that goes for anything in your life. Like if you're not getting anything good from it, if it's not benefiting you in any way, then don't do it. Like as simple as that. So yeah, so after you kind of went through your rough spell in life, you decided you was going to get your life back on track. What was kind of that first thing you did to say that got you, on the right foot? Like, kind of got you going in the right direction.
So it all began September 22nd, 2004, when I got arrested for selling a $10 rock of crack cocaine, to which I was sentenced to 6 years in the penitentiary. And the day I got arrested was a day that was profound. And what I mean by profound, I remember when I got arrested, we're waiting. They literally have a thing called paddy wagon. I'm waiting for the paddy wagon, and I'm in handcuffs, and I'm crying profusely. And I remember the cop came to me and said, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "I'm crying because I'm going to live. Because I can't live on the streets." I was suicidal by that point, and I was in a really bad place in my life. And I knew I was going to be able to. I can do prison. I've been there twice before, so I'm not worried or scared about that. And then a month later, I had a conversation with God, And God said that He'd walk with me and that it wouldn't be easy. That was a key component. But walk in faith. And ever since that, I've been good. And what I mean by good, I haven't had the inclination nor the push to imbibe anything that's mind altering, whether it's a drug. And I'm talking about there's a term we use volitionally. I've taken some mind altering chemicals. I've had 3 operations, but I've also told my doctor that I am an addict and these need to be given to my wife so she can parcel them out, these pain relievers, because I know me. And they're not even, and I had enough time, clean, let's say 5, 10, 15 years. You think it wouldn't be a problem. I did it because I don't play. I play. Why, why take the chance that I do begin to abuse the pain relievers? So I haven't. And my wife's hard too.
Yeah, the pain relievers are a tough one because there's
Yes.
something that you don't really think about them. Like you said, you have a procedure done, you don't really think about it. You take the pain relievers, and before you know it, you're addicted to them, and then it just escalates from there. So I feel like I
A
know
lot of people have relapsed off of
yeah,
pain relievers.
yeah.
A lot
I've
of people.
seen it firsthand, so I know it's a problem. Like it's I try to avoid them at all costs. Like I don't want
Mhm.
to take any medicine, honestly. But I know if you have a major procedure,
Yes.
you're gonna need one.
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
can't sometimes you can't get away with it. But it's like you say, have somebody there to hold you accountable. Like you said, you give it to your wife so she can give it to you when you need it.
Mhm.
So yeah. So after you did you kind of have like an identity shift, like when you went from, we'll say, your past life to your new life? Like what how did you like see yourself? What did you think about yourself? How did that change internally?
Well, it took time. It took time. So when you first get cleaned up, at least for me, because I had been to 13 prior inpatient treatment centers. So I'm going to my 14th while in prison, a year-long program. And I'm like, is this one going to work? Because the other 13 didn't. So you're still questioning yourself. Yeah, I have God with me, but it only takes, 1 second decision to, create going back into the addiction. So I still had low self-esteem, and I'm gonna have low self-esteem anyway because I'm thinking about my past and the things I had done on the streets and in the penitentiary. And then so in time, I began to get well. I began to get well, and today I am well.
So I know a lot of times the things we do is a result of our environment that we're in. So how did your environment change after you served your time and you wanted to kind of make a change in your life? What did your environment look like? How did you surround yourself with people that put you in the right places to help you, be successful in your business?
Well, yeah, I definitely had to change my environment, and I struggled a little bit with that. So what you do is, so I do 3 years on my last bit. They dropped me off like 2 blocks from where I was arrested 3 years before. So I'm right back in the same community. I'm on the streets of Reno, Nevada. And I had situations that came about where I'm clean and sober, but I'm going to rooms of recovery and narcotics rooms of recovery. And in there are individuals that are just coming in or don't have any time. And I might know them from the streets. So I'm still associating with, and I'm in a halfway house of all ex cons. So we're all ex offenders. So I'm associating with them because we're there. So it took time for my environment to completely change. What I didn't do is I wasn't 1 o'clock in the morning hanging out on Fourth and Lake in Reno, Nevada. That I was not doing. I did a lot of right things when I got out of the penitentiary. So I changed my environment, and then in time, I started being exposed to more normies or individuals that didn't have some of the problems of people being addicts or alcoholics or even in recovery, because people in recovery have a lot of problems too.
Yeah. So the one thing I'm hearing is it's a choice. Like you made a choice. Like you said, you went on that street late at night. You made the choice not to be there. You made the choice not to kind of surround yourself with those people. That's what's big, and I talk about a lot is making choices, because when it comes to fitness, it's really all a choice. Like it's your choice to exercise. It's your choice to eat the healthy food. It's all up to you. It's not necessarily up to everybody else. Like you have to make the choice to do it. So that's what something I talk about a lot about on the podcast. Is just you have to make the right choices. It's up to you
let
at the
me
end of the day.
let me ask you a question then. What is the difference between a choice and a decision?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to think. A choice. Yeah, I don't know. You got me on that one.
Yeah. No, I mean, so the decision is a higher level than the choice. Okay. I can choose to go to the store, but I decided I will go to the store. Okay. And I'm nothing to push back. I'm just what what it comes down to is a long succession of decisions. Decisions are a perceived future action that you have engaged. That's a perceived future action. I decided I'd go to the gym 3 times a week. I have a choice to go 5 times if I want, but I've decided I will go 3. And that's a decision. Usually it's an internal discussion, internal to the individual, to make a volitional effort to make this future a truth. And I can't wait to talk about fitness, because I'm big into fitness. Okay. And I began fitness because of prison and because of beginning out and then needing to get physically well.
So did you find fitness before you created your business and was successful there, or did you start your business and then you found it after that? How does that work?
No, I started lifting in 1992. Okay. And I was a power lifter. I've competed, and I got really into powerlifting. So that was my passion. And so when I went to the penitentiary, I would lift, and I would do the strongest man competition. And I'm going up against guys who are 270, 280, came in second, strongest man competition. I pulled a 519 at 198, drug free, in prison. That's a deadlift. I mean, I just got out of the gym today. I've gone to the gym 5 days today, which I shouldn't. I usually only go 4. But I've just been feeling so good about getting back into the gym, because I took about 2, 3 years off after lifting for literally. I have every single lift that I have done since 2007 in spreadsheets. Every single lift in a spreadsheet.
Yeah, sometimes I'll track my list like that, and then I realize it's kind of information overload. So then I kind of quit
Not for
doing
me.
it. Yeah,
I,
so it's
I
just
always say the most important muscle
yeah.
is your brain. And because what I'm looking for is, so I teach a class on dashboards, and it's a dashboard, really, is what it is. And a dashboard has the items that you are tracking. It has baseline. It has sequential, weekly, daily, whatever you want to track. I usually, for many bigger dashboard, we do monthly, but I do weekly. I always do, and I've done for 20 some years. I do quarterly lifts. So I change my lifts every quarter. So it's 13 weeks. Okay. And then I have my number that's my goal, okay, that I want to. So if let's say I'm doing stiff deadlifts, okay, I want a stiff deadlift. It's 8 reps or it's 20, depending on what kind of rep sequence I'm doing. And my goal is to do 8 at 365 stiff deads. But I'm starting off at 215, and in the 13 weeks, I'm hoping to reach this because I know my numbers pretty well, and I can guess. And many times I have to adjust my numbers up because the lift is going, 6 weeks in, it's going so well. But I've been lifting so long, I also know my my weights will go up for probably about 10 or 11 weeks, and then it gets tight. It's tight. You plateau after about 10 or 11 weeks.
Yeah, I like how you change your workup plan every
Every
quarter. I think
13.
that's a good kind of time limit. Because if you do it too short, like a month, then you don't really get all the benefits out of it that you could. But then at that quarter a year, you kind of you will hit a plateau, like you said, a lot of times. So it's
Yeah,
good.
about 10, 11 weeks in, you'll
Yeah.
plateau. And it's hard to get another 5 pounds or another couple reps at the weight. Unless you have to find out where the weakness is, or what we call in deadlifting, where's your sticking point, and what do I need to do to move past the sticking point to be able to finish the lift. If we're just talking about the three, squat, bench, deadlift. But again, I lift the whole body. I do a lot of ab work, a lot of core work, and I always tell people one of the big difficulties most people have in weightlifting is they don't lift, they don't do enough work on the muscles they can't see. So you'll do a lot of stuff for your quads, you'll do a lot of stuff for your chest, you'll do a lot of stuff for your biceps, but you won't do your triceps, you won't do your lower back, you won't even hardly do a lot with your back, let alone your hamstrings, calves, because you don't see them. You're not looking at them. And then I remember reading that 20 years ago. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So I made sure. And then I did a lot understanding the trunk work, the core work.
Do you still do kind of powerlifting style training?
63 years old. I snapped my Achilles tendon 15 years ago. So I have an atrophied calf because they misdiagnosed it. And I didn't get it fixed for like a month, even though I had no Achilles tendon in my right foot. That's one of those medical stories.
How do you walk? I don't get that.
I had an ace bandage.
You was toughing it out. I know that hurt.
Well, yeah. Well, it doesn't hurt. Snapping Achilles tendon does not hurt. A lot of people who haven't had it happen don't know that. So let me tell you what happened. I'm playing adult league basketball. I had gotten out of prison 3 years before. I am like 50 years old. And I planted, oh, how did I? Yeah, the first time I planted, and oh no, I was driving to the basket for a layup, and I felt like somebody kicked me in my calf. That's what it felt like. And I fell to the ground. I go over to the bench. I tightened up my sneaker real tight, and I'm like, Coach, put me back in. Puts me back in. Now I've already snapped, but I don't know this. I've already snapped it. I play defense, one play. We go down. Somebody passes me the ball. I plant my foot to drive or move, and I tore every other ligament and tendon in my foot. When I went down the second, because I have no Achilles strengthening that foot there, because that's the biggest one, and it's a thick Achilles tendon. And I went down that second time, I knew it was over. So when I go to the doctor the next day, my whole foot is swollen. And he's like, yeah, you got a bad sprain. I'm like, okay. And he gives me an ace bandage. So I take the ace bandage, and I'm hobbling around. And I go back in like 2 weeks later, and I'm like, this is not healing up. I've sprained before. It's all black and blue and everything because I took all those other ligaments and tendons out. And he goes, oh, no, it's just a bad sprain. It'll get better. A month later, I tell my wife, we got to go to a different doctor because this is not working. So I go to the other doctor and I'm sitting there with him. I said, it's not really healing. It's still puffed up a bit. And he felt back there and he said, well, what happened? I said, well, it felt like somebody kicked me in my calf. He said, you have no Achilles tendon. I said, well, can we do an MRI or something? He said, sure. And we did the MRI. And what happens is it shrinks. It goes up into the calf. And he said, if you had come in 1 or 2 days, like I did the doctor, he said, I made an incision about that big and I would have tied it back up. Now I had to go under and there's a gap about this wide. Let me go. Yeah, this wide now from the Achilles tendon to the ankle. And he said, I might have to go into your foot, take a tendon out of your foot to tie it together. Okay. So I was down for like 3 or 4 months, had to boot instead of being, a 1 inch, and I would have been back. He said, you could have been walking, running, literally light running in 2 weeks. But I was down 6 months. So anyway,
Wow.
I don't, the question is, do I powerlift anymore? No, I'm 63 and I don't recover obviously as well. But I'm in great shape. I'm looking at my numbers because I just got back in and I'm on my second 13 weeks. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I'm maxing out. I was telling the owners of the gym, I said, yo, I'm like maxing out your machines. Is there anything else we can do? And they got some bands, so I might do some band work. And then these are the machines. So I'm just going to go over now to free weights, but I don't have a lifting partner. So I have to be real careful, which I am. And I'm not going to lift heavy like I used to.
Yeah.
'Cause I
What do
have a
you
water. Okay.
you do? Do you do full body workouts, or what is your workouts? How are they structured? You doing body
So
part split, or
yeah, body part split. You're talking to a guy who's studied this for years. I mean, studied. So my favorite blogger, hands down, is Lyle McDonald, Body Recomposition. I recommend it to anyone who wants to understand lifting, health, and fitness, okay, and nutrition. Lyle McDonald, Body Recomposition. But Alex Aragon, I got to go through a whole, I've read, when I was in the penitentiary, they had Powerlifting USA, the civilian who ran the gym in the penitentiary was a powerlifter. And so he had magazines, he probably had a couple hundred Powerlifting USAs. I read every single one of them. And they have routines in there. And of course you had the Flex magazines and Muscle and Fitness, all that. Read all that. I pretty much have done at least during my time, which was the 90s, 2000s, I've done like every supplement. That was the OKG, V2, G2, vanadyl sulfate, creatine monohydrate. I could go on. I've done all the supplements. Because again, I'm thinking, I'm trying, and I still, to this day, the only thing I'll do is creatine. And then, do you know what a stack is?
like a steroid stack,
No,
or
no,
like
no.
a
Go ahead. Go ahead.
what do they call them things? What are they called? I can't think of it.
Okay, so what a stack was back in the day, this is in the 90s. A stack, only time I would do a stack is on leg day, which is Friday. Okay, I would do this, and I'll tell you what it was. It's incredible leg day. And what I would do is I would take 2 Dimetrine 25s, and I'll just explain what that is. I would take a quadruple shot of espresso, caffeine, and I would take 6 aspirin. Okay? Aspirin thins your blood, plus you don't feel the pain as much. The caffeine, I don't need to say anything about caffeine, but we're talking about a quadruple espresso shots of caffeine. And then Dimetrine 25s, I used to sell in the grocery stores, in the mini marts, and they were for truckers. and they were um, uh, they're the precursor to methamphetamine, and they were 25 milligrams, okay, of pure. They were ephedrine, HCl, 25 milligrams in a pill form. They don't
So
sell them anymore,
is that
but
like
people were
It's
making.
kind of like Adderall?
I don't know what Adderall is, but I've heard of it. For people who are
It's
hyper.
probably similar.
It's probably similar, but they stopped selling it. They made it illegal because people were crushing them down and making methamphetamines out of it, making speed out of it. I tell people I used to take that stack. I would take it like a half hour before I left. If I grabbed the light bulb would come on. Okay, that's how much. And so then I would go to. I love talking about this. I don't get a chance on a podcast, but I would go over to the leg sled machine, 45-degree leg sled machine, and I would put on 800 pounds. I would run 20 reps. I'd go right next door to the hack squat machine, okay? And I would do usually like 2 plates, which is 180 plus the machine. Not yeah, 180 plus the machine. I'd do another 15, 20 reps. Then I would go over to the safety squat rack, which is right next door. They were right next door to each other. And all I had was one plate. Because now I've done like 30, 40 reps. And I only have one plate, 135. And I do squats, 15, 20 till I couldn't do any more. I'd rack it. I would walk 3 or 4 steps, collapse on the ground for about 2 minutes, get up, go to the bathroom, and throw up every single time until I read why I was throwing up. And Sergio Olivia, who was a very, very famous, he was the most famous bodybuilder before Arnold from Cuba, he would talk about his leg day. And the reason you throw up is because you put so much blood into your quads, your legs, and your buttocks, your thighs, that it draws the blood away from your stomach, and the stomach uses the circulatory system to take out toxins from the food you eat. Literally, this is a true story. Take out toxins. So it knows it can't because the blood's been drawn into your legs. So it says, let's get rid of the food that's in you and the coffee that's in you. And literally every time I would throw up. And that was my leg day.
I don't know how you didn't have a heart attack.
I was 20 some years old. And the fitness, we're talking about fitness. And so I was fit strength wise. Aerobically, I wasn't until I got out of the penitentiary and I started running. I started doing 10Ks. And I got up to probably 2.5 hour runs, 13 mile, maybe a half marathon. I didn't run a half marathon, but I did 10Ks, did a bunch of those. But the thing about fitness is, for when I was clean, it's a mindset. So I'm clean in the penitentiary because I'm not doing drugs in the penitentiary, and I'm clean on the streets. And it's a mindset. And the mindset is this. This is my baseline. I want to reach the goal. I want to prove to myself that I can do this. I want to prove to myself that I can do this lift. I'm competing powerlifting, and I do my second. I don't know if you ever powerlifted, but you get three. You have a flight. You get 3 lifts, and you can't go down. So you always open at a number you can do. So I opened at like, let's say 480. My goal is to get 505, 510 at 198. Then at 480, no problem. I go to the 505, which would have been my personal best, a PR, personal record. And I get it halfway up, and my left shoulder dislocates out of the shoulder socket. And the bar is like this. So, it's like this, because the shoulder's down 2 inches. And I still finished the lift, okay? And then on the way down, I dropped the weight, which should be an automatic red light. But there's a referee and there's umpires, and the ref is looking at me, or the umpire, I can't remember right now which one's the head guy. And you got 2 other guys, so 3 people are lighting. You want greens. You need all greens. And he's looking at me, and they're looking to see what the head guy is going to do. because he's literally a foot away from me as I do the lift. And he said, "You dropped it." I said, "Yeah, I know." He said, "But I saw that your shoulder came out of your socket, but you finished it." Because I locked out, and I was on the way down, I dropped it. And he green lighted me, out of respect to me finishing that. So as soon as I dropped it, it popped back in. And I'm like, dang, do I do a third, lift? Because my shoulder had come out. And I did. I just turned over. You have an over and under, and you're stronger with the underarm. And that's usually my right arm. My left shoulder had come out. So I made that my underarm, and I made my right arm my overarm. And I lifted a 519 and a half, set a record on my yard at that weight. So I don't know. That was 20 years ago.
That's awesome. That's one thing I don't do very often is the deadlift. I had lower back problems, so they tends to bother my back a little bit.
Don't do
So,
it.
yeah.
I don't recommend it unless you really want to get into that. I don't even recommend lifting heavy for most people. It took me, years to be able to lift heavy. Okay. And there's so much to lifting safely. And I've had so many injuries. I've had a lot of injuries because when you lift heavy, see, the difficulty is when you are like at competition level or close to it. If you're sick that day, you're still thinking I can go in there and do 495. Okay. But you don't really have the energy because your body's fighting off whether the sickness is. But you put the 495 on the bar and you go to lift it up, and now you're struggling, straining because your body is sick. And so you end up there's a chance you'll get injured. But remember, more injuries come from fast movements, not slow. And deadlift, all yeah, I can't say that. I was gonna say all power lifts are slow. They're not super fast. Let's just put it that way. You can't. They're too heavy to be super fast. Even though you want to, and we teach you to explode out of the lift. Okay, you explode off the chest because in competition, it comes off the rack. You have it. This is bench, and you bring it down to your chest, and you have to pause until they give you the go. Then you can explode because they don't want you to bounce it off your chest because you can bounce off your chest, and it'll get you up to maybe a couple of inches, and then you can load up. Same thing. You can't hitch and jerk on a deadlift. It has to be smooth up. You can stop, but then you can't go back down and try to hitch it up. Okay, but it's the fast movements. I've had injuries where machines have either broken or bands have broken. I was doing a leg tricep extension. So I had a machine, tricep extension. I had maxed out the machine, so we put a band on it. So you can get colored bands, and they have different tensions. So we had the colored band on it. It was green. I'll never forget it. And I remember I got the whole stack on the machine. I got the band, the green band, on there. And I'm like on third or fourth rep, whatever. And the band snaps. Now I'm strong enough that this weight, I can move real fast. So boom, I jerk out. And my elbow. I've had so many of those.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up about like when you said if you're feeling sick and you go in there and you still try to do the same weight. That's a good point.
Very good point.
That people need to realize. Hey, if you're sick,
Don't lift.
I don't think you. I mean, yeah, you can don't lift, but you can if you just have to lift.
You have to wait, work on form.
Yeah.
If you want to say, and I agree with it because there's two schools of thought. There's one school that says don't lift. If you're truly sick, you don't want to give anybody anything. Okay, that's number one. But I mean, you know that you're down. I mean, there's times I can feel, it's not clicking. Okay, I'm not physically. And then there's other times where I'm like, I feel like I can lift the whole gym before I go into the gym. I had a lift today. I couldn't believe my numbers. I'm like, where did this strength come from? Literally. And I'm like, I'm cool with it, because Usually you just do one, you do the first set, and I can tell the rest of the lifts are going to be strong because I'm strong for some reason. The endorphins are being released, whatever. But going back, you can go in there, take off 20%, and just get beautiful form, keep the brain, because remember, strength training is not just strength, it's neurological. It's the nerve paths. And remember, what the body wants to do is use the least amount of muscle cells to complete the motion, because they know if you deplete all the muscle cells, you can't run away from the saber-toothed tiger. That's the only analogy I use. Okay, you can't run away from danger because you're depleted. So we want you to be able to always have a reserve. And so we're going to use the least amount of cells possible. But you can train literally your body to be more efficient in how many cells that it uses. Okay. And what the greatest lifters is that they can avail themselves. If there's 100% of cells in the bicep, they can avail themselves of 99.5. And they can test this, and it's incredible. Again, this is the education of lifting and
Mind
understanding.
muscle connection. That's what a lot of
Mhm.
people call it. It's a real thing.
Well, I'm sort of talking about something. I know you're talking about the mind, muscle, neurological, the nervous system. I'm talking about learning about fitness, whether it's running, whether it's aerobics, whether it's anaerobic, learning. And so I've I've read a lot. I've done a lot of different types of lift. There was a lift which I loved back in 1998. And what the guy was teaching was short throws, short lifts. And we're talking about like 4 inches, 6 inches. That's it. And doing the heaviest weight possible. So you would do something like a safety squat rack, put 420 pounds, and just do reps off of the pins. Okay, and the safeties are there. But that you can only bench 225, but you can do 450 if it's just a lockout, because you can involve your anterior deltoids, you can involve your triceps and your chest. Okay, remember there's a sticking point. The sticking point for most people is 2 to 3 inches off the chest, but all you're doing is the last couple inches, right? And doing like 30, 40, 50 reps. And his theory was, if if you look at it, most physical activity you do are short throws. If you're blocking on like the football line, it's just it's
Hmm.
literally. And I was like, wow. So I mean, I did that. I did the Nautilus. I've done I've done holds, isometrics. I've done negatives. I've done positives. I've done drop sets. I've done pyramids. Over again. I started in '92. And then there was times I did not lift. Obviously, I was smoking crack on the streets. But every time I went back to the penitentiary, and then I read everything that I could. That Powerlifting USA was. You read 10 years worth of Powerlifting USA, and they always have lifts in there and famous lifters telling this is my routine. And then back in the day was a big thing with Louis Simmons, and the West Side Barbell was the biggest thing in not deadlifting, in powerlifting in the United States. And so that's where I learned how to do chain work, how to do band work. I got into that. And my thing is, I would teach it. I would teach it to people. I loved it. I love teaching.
That's when you learn the most, is when you start teaching to other
Yeah.
people.
Yes. It is easily one. And my thing was to teach people. This is something you'll find interesting. Um, the best lifters I ever had were women. Were women. And why you say that, Ken? Not because they were the strongest, because they would listen, and their ego wasn't built into two plates on a bar for a bench, which is 225. That's the goal for 90% of men. I want to do two plates, 225 for reps. Okay. They didn't care about that. They just wanted to get stronger. I was teaching these women so they could take the fire department test. Okay, and they needed, a base of strength to be able to do that. And they would just do whatever I said. And then the other thing is, they dealt with pain better than men. When I lift and when I teach lifting, there's discomfort in it. Okay, and that's probably a better word because we learned the difference between pain in lifting and discomfort in lifting. Lactic acid buildup is discomfort. Getting those last 3 forced reps is discomfort. Doing a 15-second hold is discomfort, but that's not pain. That's not injury. Okay, and there's a difference. And sometimes it's hard to differentiate the two, but they would do so much better. I. This is the funny one. I used to bring in some young guys. Remember, I'm 60-some years old, but I was doing this in my 50s. I'd bring in these young guys, and I would say to them, don't try to lift, because they're bigger than me. Don't try to lift my weights. I've been doing this for years, bro. And, oh, yeah, OG, I got you, OG. And they would try to keep up with me. And then 2-3 days later, when that delayed onset muscle soreness kicked in, they're like, I'm cool. I'm cool. Can't lift.
There's definitely a skill. There's definitely a skill to lifting. It's not something that's just natural. You have to learn it. It's like you said, you got to actually learn how to do the lifts correctly.
Can I speak to that for a second? Let me say something on that. Yes. Most people don't know that the most technical lift is the bench press. We used to have a checklist before you did your first rep because most people don't know how to lift. So they don't get the maximum ability or get stronger quicker because they're being held back by their weaknesses or their poor form. You lift on your traps, you arch your back, you plant your feet. Everything is tense in the body. Everything. We used to call it the grip of death. You grip the bar, the grip of death. I did suicide grip, but I don't recommend it. Just do your normal grip. Because anyway, did suicide and I got in trouble for doing that. Believe me. Okay? You bring your shoulder blades back and down. Okay? And everything is tight. Everything is tight. Your buttocks are tight, your hammies, your quads, and you're grounded into the ground. And then when you bring the bar down, the thought is you're trying to push your way away from the bar. It's not lifting the bar up. It's to push yourself into the ground. And the bar will automatically, that's the thought. And the other thing is that you're trying to pull the bar apart. You're trying to literally pull it apart. I mean, and it's weird, I haven't even taught on this in years, but I've always had a team of people that were a part of my group. In the prison, we call it a car, but outside the prison, it's just a group of guys that lifted with me. I set up the routines, and they came in, they took my lead, we spot each other, we time each other, because some lifts that we have are timed, and I had I love lifting. I miss it. I mean, I'm lifting now, but by myself. And I miss the partners and the camaraderie and seeing the improvement and saying to myself, I can do this. And I'm doing something that most people can't do. Not let alone won't do, but they can't do because they don't choose to, to be either this healthy or this strong or to be this disciplined. I lifted from 07 to, let's say, 20, okay? And then COVID, and then there was some other things, situations that happened. And I might have missed 4 lifts, 4 days a week, unless I was traveling for business. I might have missed 4 lifts in 13 years. And I got the proof. I have every single sheet. It's an Excel sheet. Every single one of them.
Yeah, one point you brought up that I think is huge that I talk a lot about is getting that community out of it. You said you liked lifting with your group of guys. Community is huge, not just as a human. I mean, humans are kind of made to be around people for community, but in fitness for sure, I always tell people to find a workout buddy. Like get you a
Yes.
buddy. If you got more than one, that's better. But get somebody that can do it with you because it makes it when it makes it easier. It makes it easier to show up if you have somebody there.
Makes
Well,
you more efficient.
yeah, and makes you more accountable. That's the big thing. It holds you
100.
accountable.
Accountable is probably the most important word. It's
Yep.
accountable. And the other thing it does is there's a bunch of things it does. It also this is important. That person's physical well-being, you have to protect. That's why I'm a spotter. I'm a spotter. We used to have this thing. So you have to work on this thing called explosiveness out of the bottom in the bench. So I used to take 185 pounds, put it on the bar, take it down to my chest, and then throw it in the air. And I only throw it like 3-4 inches. My partner's, he's above me, it's on bench. He would grab it. It's only 185 pounds. He'd grab it, bring it down to my chest, 10 reps. Set number 2, rep number 6, I threw it in the air. He didn't grab it. And 185 pounds came from 3.5, 4 feet in the air, because my arms are back now, and hit me in the chest.
But that
I
was fun.
I took it, just threw it up on the rack. I'm in shock. I have tears in my eyes, and I go, what the F? But I can't barely get out because my air's been knocked out of me. And he's like, oh, he was 18 years old, new kid. And he's like, oh, I missed it. I forgot to grab it. Didn't grab it. I tore my sternum. There's a thing called a breastbone, and then there's a rib cage. And the rib cage works, there's cartilage between the ribs, which are like fingers, and the sternum, and then there's cartilage right here. That's where you can expand the chest, but there's still bone. It's rib bones. And you have the sternum, which is the breastbone. I tore. Had to go to the doctor. I was down for like 2-3 months. 20 years later, every once in a while, because it goes in like this, and then it comes out. It gets stuck in, and I have to go to the door, lean forward, and pop the rib out. 20 years later,
Yeah.
because he didn't spot me. He didn't. Anyway, so you build a relationship, and I had guys I lifted the last 10 years, same guys, 3 of them, and then we'd add up guys that would come for a week or two, and then they would go out. And it was great to watch them grow, especially the son. And then then afterwards, you hit the sauna, or we'd go out to, to dinner probably once or twice a week. We had a little favorite Mexican place, but it was something to look forward to. We had a lot of laughter, and then other people in the gym, you see them, and they see you, and they see you're consistent. You see they're consistent, and you build the friendship. So I'm still close to, and I've been gone from Anchorage for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. You said you see the people in the gym all the time. It's funny. It's always the same exact people in there when you go because you go at the same time and they're always in there at the same time.
Yeah, I was
So
at 2:45, 3 o'clock. I think ours was 3 o'clock, which was a great time. It's before the rush, the after work rush. But I worked from home on my own business, and the other person worked, I think, mornings or evening. I think he worked mornings, and so he get off, and then the other guy could get off. So I think he worked 6 to 2, something like that, or 6 to 2:30. So it was perfect for us. We get there at 3 o'clock, and we literally went to 4 different gyms. The gyms would close up, or a new one would open, and there's nothing like a good gym, and there's a vibe to a good gym. And different gyms have different vibes, but also a good gym with good equipment and good, staff members working in there. And we still to this day talk about our favorite gyms in Anchorage, Alaska. Like I said, we went to 4 different ones, and it's a lot of fun. I'm bringing a smile on my face just thinking about it.
Oh yeah. So what were you doing up in Alaska? What'd you do up there?
I grew up there. So when I got out of prison, I came back in 2009 to marry um, my high school sweetheart, and then I began working up there as a development director in the fundraising world. And then in 2014, I started my own company, which I still have to this day. And that's what I did up there. And I grew up there, so I came back home, you could say. And then I
So
moved down to Blaine.
so what is your company now? What do you do now?
We still do. I do fundraising consulting, and I write grants for
For
federal
like
entities for federal. I mean, excuse me. I write federal grants for tribal
for
for
like
tribe.
Native Americans?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. For sure.
I don't
Native.
I didn't even know that was the thing, but I could see there could be a lot of money in that. I know them Native
Yeah.
Americans, they do very well for themselves. So
They can. They
yeah,
can.
they do
Yeah.
in the area that I live in, they do very
Yeah.
well.
They
I mean,
can.
they own all the casinos and all that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
they own a lot of land.
So
And you do that, you said you're in Washington, but you probably do
yes,
that
I am.
remote. You do that remote.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in my office right now. So I do it out of Blaine, Washington,
Okay.
and but we have clients all over the country.
All right. Well, we're coming close to an
Sure.
hour. I want to respect your time. I could sit here, and talk about fitness all day, but I
I
just want
could
to,
too.
I want to take up all your time. Let's see what is something that people could start doing today to kind of transform their life, to kind of maybe they had a bad past and they want to, get better, get back on track today. What's something that you could tell them or that would help them to kind of get started on the right track?
My best recommendation, and you have to see if you have the capacity to do it, is to get counseling. I think everybody, you need a neutral place to be honest. You need a place to be honest. And whether you pay for it or EAP pays for it, employee program at your company pays for it, just a place to be honest, to talk about what's real about my feelings about present or past, or even future if it's fear based. But if you have fear, it's always past based. Let me say it again. If you have fear, which is future anticipation or expectation of pain, that's all fear is, it's past based. Because you have to have something. There's only like 2 fears that are built into humans, and one is heights. I mean, that's only one that are built in. Everything else is acquired fear. Okay, I can't remember the other one, but there's another one. Um, but the thing is get counseling, and I'm such a big believer in that. And some of the people that come across as the most well are probably some of the ones that need the most help. Okay, because that's a facade. And so anyway, that's in the area of the emotional and mental. That's what I would do. And then in the area of fitness, I'll say it again, Lyle McDonald, just check him out. Body recomposition. Been doing his blog for 10, 12 years, even though he's pretty much just stopped blogging. But, and I've looked at a lot of them, pretty intelligent, and I'm looking for truth. And so that's what he does. Is he talks about truth because he takes scientific finding and explains them in layman's terms. Okay. And then he also was a Olympic level speed racer, ice skating speed, Olympic level. Okay, so he knows what, and this is his specialty. And let me put it this way: he wrote a book called The Protein Book. It's like 250 pages on protein. The whole book is on protein. Phenomenal. So anyway, if you want to get, if you want to especially take it up another level, look in, and it's free. Just go to his blog, Body Recomposition, and then find someone to lift with, or find someone to be accountable to, whether it's running, lifting, hiking, to be accountable to, because we let ourselves down so many times. That's enough. I could talk about this for another half hour, things I'd recommend. But it's just recommendations, suggestions.
Yeah, I think that's a good one for the therapy. I think a lot of people are kind of hesitant to doing that, but when they hear other people talk about it, that it's more normal than you realize, and I think people are more willing to look into things like that. So I think that's important.
Okay, yeah, yeah, and I was too. So I mean, especially men, we think we understand it, and a lot of times we haven't even defined it, but we understand it, but we haven't defined it. You don't even know what it is, but you think you understand it. You don't. You don't. I'm 63. I've been well. Let me just finish this before I get off. I am well. What does that mean? That means I can deal with the vicissitudes of life successfully. I can. I make good decisions for my family and me all the time, all the time. And when I don't know the answer that's going to be good for my family, especially my wife, then I will take time for prayer. I will take time for counsel. And then I will do the best thing, not the one that gives me the most pleasure or gives me the least amount of discomfort, because that's how we make decisions for self. I will do what is best for my wife and my family, period. But I'm well. So I don't go around looking for problems. I don't go around saying I have a lot of problems, because I don't. I have the accoutrements of success. I'm on this podcast because I want to be on it. And I enjoy sharing. I don't want anything from anybody. If you want to get my book, it's called Becoming Ken. It's at Amazon. Great. I get $4 every time somebody buys a book. I make a lot more than $4. Believe me, owning my businesses. I have multiple businesses. So that's the least of mine. But anytime I can share that's a value added to your listeners, I'm very, very appreciative. And that's why I do the podcast. I've done 130 podcasts I've been a guest on. 130.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna leave it at that then. So I just want to say thank you again for joining the
Thank
podcast.
you.
I enjoyed our chat. Anytime I get to talk fitness and life
Yeah.
and business, I'm all for it. So I enjoyed
You're
it.
the
So
first one I've been able to do this with, man. If you ever want me on again about a specific part of either lifting or nutrition or motivation, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to, because it gives me an opportunity to talk out loud. But here's my sheet right here. This is, remember I was telling you? Here's my lifting sheet right there. This is the one I'm working on right now.
I like it. I like it.
All
Well,
right.
let everybody know where they can find you at. If you have any
Sure.
socials, I know you mentioned your
Yep.
book,
Ken
anything like
Miller
that.
84 is my LinkedIn, and I respond to every message. So Ken Miller 84. And then if you want to email me, it's ken at kenmillerspeaks.com. Simple. And then my book
Awesome.
is Becoming Ken, and it's on Amazon and Audible. Feel free. And this is something I do. I don't do it every time I come on a podcast. This is to the listener. If you would like a hand signed copy of my book for free, I have them here. I mail them out. Cost me $4.42. I don't care. I will send you a hand signed copy. Just DM me, contact me on LinkedIn, go to my website and leave me a message there, and I will send you a hand signed copy of my book, Becoming Ken, a black man's journey from the Ivy Leagues to the streets, penitentiary, and back again. And it's a fun read. There's some stories in there.
That's awesome. I'm sure the listeners will enjoy that. I appreciate that. We'll put your information down in the description so y'all can go down there and get that information if you need it. So
Sounds like a winner. Thank you.
yeah, thank you for joining the podcast. Y'all be sure to Join in next week for another episode of the Fitness Beginner Podcast.